White House at Washington, President Roosevelt approves legislation to provide for America's war veterans in the peace to come.
The GI Bill turns about 70 years old this year, and it's one of the great pieces of legislation that has been passed. And while over the years it's changed through the various times and periods of war that we've gone through, it essentially has afforded millions of veterans to continue their education, and as a result of that, our country has benefited.
The law gave access to a higher education at college and university level, and it was this access that developed into an explosion in the arts post-World War II.
Returning GIs, they survived the war. They lived. They needed to come back and create rather than destroy, and to learn, to know, to understand. The world was their oyster, and they were going to have it by hook or crook. One of these artists is William Daley, and he becomes a gunner in the Air Force, and his plane was shot down, and he wound up becoming a prisoner of war. He comes back from the war and decides he is going to try for art school. And with the GI Bill, now he can. That moment, that catalytic moment, just changed everything. And he is still making today. He's extremely spry.
You have artists like Ramona Solberg of Seattle who were a part of the GI Bill. Ramona was in the WAC, Women's Auxiliary Corps, and she loved the entire military experience. She even called basic training girls' camp. What strikes me about Ramona's work is that she takes materials from all different things, pulls them together, but it seems weighted, and it seems formal, and it seems right.
Harvey Littleton, his father's the inventor of Pyrex, and he, using his GI Bill, goes back to school to become a potter at first, but to then bring in glass, which was really an industrial material, set off what became the American studio glass movement.
Arthur Espenet Carpenter took advantage of the GI Bill and used it to set up his studio in San Francisco. He alone had over 130 apprentices come through his studio, so he influenced an entire generation of woodworkers. And you have J.B. Blunk, who, on furlough from the Korean War in Japan, just happens to meet Isamu Noguchi at a folk pottery store. From that conversation, J.B. Blunk goes on to study the rich ceramics tradition in Japan, which then affected the rest of his career. He would wake up in the morning and look at those beautiful logs that he drug off the coast. His work is very reductive. He sees the form and then he just reveals it.